This is Wes, and I would like to welcome you to the Underground Geek Shack, Season 2, Episode 1. Hey, do you want to know something? Why do we create the things that we create? I guess it's probably because you found yourself in something. Whether that is you're making a book, you're writing a book, making a movie, making a piece of artwork, anything. If you find yourself in there in your creation that you're making, then that makes it all the more better. Today, I'm going to be talking about Pompo the Cinephile. And so Pompo the Cinephile is a animated movie, and even though the name is called Pompo the Cinephile, and you sit here and think that, oh, it must be the fact that you have this chick named Pompo and she really likes movies. It's not only about that, but it's about her assistant, Gene Feeney. Yes, that's his name. And so he is the assistant to Pompo. And they're in the middle of shooting this film and everything. And so she asked the director if Gene can make a 15-second trailer for the film. And so he makes the trailer and everything, because that was the first time because she basically has known Gene for a long time, way before we knew anything about them from where the movie started, right? And so Pompo asked Gene, she's like, hey, you're gonna be the one to cut this trailer. And so she's like, oh yeah, you already know how to use editing software. So he runs through the editing software and comes out with this 15-second trailer and everything. And they like it. And then they're like, wait, did you use outside footage? And then he's like, yeah, I thought it would be more appealing and, misdirect the audience, which was kind of interesting on his part, because Gene knows a whole lot about movies. And it gets to a point where they're going to take some PR shots for the upcoming film, and Gene ends up leaving his notebook behind, and Pompo finds it. And so Pompo is reading through it, and then she looks at the director, and she's like, hey, yeah, I'm guessing what she says to him, because it doesn't really show what happens. That part's off screen. And it's just cool, because you get to see all the inner workings of a film industry. Mainly, this is it's a fictional world of Hollywood, which they call Nollywood. And it's just interesting to see the inner workings of a fictional movie setting and movie, for B movies, a B-list movie producer and everything. And it's interesting because Pompo gives Gene the opportunity to not only enjoy his love of movies, but actually lets him become a movie director. And so, she writes up this script and called The Meister, and she has it on Gene's desk, and she basically leaves a note, and it's like, hey, read through the script and everything and let me know by the time I get back from breakfast or whatever. And so Gene sits down with a cup of coffee, he reads the script and everything, and then when Pompo comes back, and he's like, yo, I really like the script. And then she was like, what was the best she's like, tell me what captivated you the most. And he was like, it's when they go to it's when Lily and the girl that plays Lily and the Meister are it goes from being, what was it? It was from the sweeping meadows to the majestic view of the Alps. And he was like, and that would take, if I saw that on the big screen, that would take my breath away. And then all Pompo does, she says, wow, you answered that really quickly. And then she goes, yep, he's passed. And Gene has no clue as to what Pompo's talking about. And he's like, what? And then uh you got this other chick who comes in, and her name is Natalie. And so Natalie comes in, and she got a haircut and everything. And so she's telling Pompo that she got her haircut just like she asked. And then when Gene turns around, I keep calling him Jin for some reason, but when Gene turns around, he sees Natalie, but he says, "Oh snap, I'm looking at Lily." And Pompo's like, "Yeah, because I wrote the script for her." And it was just cool to see, like, because Pompo said that during the audition phase that Natalie didn't really fit the bill for it, but she saw like a wash of light over Natalie, and it was like a glimpse of Lily, and so she wrote out that entire screenplay for Meister. And it was interesting to see, oh, so if you get a spark of inspiration, some movie producers just go ahead and just write out an entire script or an entire screenplay just to get the idea out there. And you're like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. And so now they go in, they get Martin Braddock, who is like this legendary actor who had quit acting because none of the roles seemed fitting for him. And but Pompo's grandpa Peterson, and him and Martin Braddock used to be friends, and so he called Martin Braddock over, and he's like, "Hey, yo, I got a good film for you that this one might actually work for you." And so you got Natalie and you got Martin Braddock, and so you got these two stars. And Gene is kind of freaking out because now he is officially a movie director at this point in time. And so he kind of freaks out a little bit, and he made kind of like a declaration to himself. He was like, either because he likes movies, he was like, I got nowhere else to run. He was like, if I run from this movie, then I'm running from myself. And he was like, so either I make the movie or I die. And it's like, I don't think so, but he was like, and I'm just gonna go ahead and make the movie. And so it was like, that was cool to see. And the interesting thing is that, like, this is like after they shoot the whole film and everything. Um, if you haven't watched Pompo the Cinephile, go watch Pompo the Cinephile. I'm pretty sure you can find it on YouTube. Like, go on YouTube Movies and TV and either rent it or buy it. But it is a good film. I'm not lying. Even my friend Alan, he can tell you that it's a good film. He liked it. um, but there's a moment where, because the thing is that for Pompo, right? She, like, once the movie is done, like once like the crew and everyone have done filming the movie, then it has to be edited, right? And so usually you would hire like an editor to edit the movie and everything. But for Pompo, she would want her directors to edit the movie themselves because they are the first ones to see it fully. They get to take all the footage that they've, accumulated over the course of the months for the movie, and now they have to sit here and put it into, an actual film. And so it's interesting to see what Gene is going to come up with. And, there's a moment where it's flipping back and forth between what's happening in the film and what's happening while he's editing. And there's a moment where you hear like the manager for Dalbert. That's the character that Martin's playing. His name is Dalbert. And the manager for Dalbert comes in, and he is like, dude, you need to just take a break. You left your door unlocked. Anything could have happened. You need to get away. Um and so, he takes him up on his advice and everything. But at this point, when it cuts back to Gene editing, he's like sweating, he's tired. And then he literally takes a step back, and he goes and like he's just sitting out on on this bench right next to the vending machines, and then he's just trying to figure out what the heck is he gonna do for this film. And then he sees Mr. Peterson, Pompo's grandfather, and he is walking away. He's walking somewhere, gonna go to like this. It's like this old room where he's literally just splicing old film to make a new movie. And you're like, what? You can do, like, I didn't know you could do that, but apparently you can. And um and he was like, because Gene is like, he's looking at his phone, and then he sees Pompo because he's about to call her, and so he doesn't. And so he goes and talks to Mr. Peterson, and it's funny because with Mr. Peterson, every time he sees Gene, he goes, "Oh, you're Sam, this is Battleship Hansen," or he'll say some like random other movie title that you would not have thought of, and he goes, and Gene goes, "No, it's Gene." Just let me correct you right there. And um, but it's interesting because he talks to so Gene gets to talk to Peterson, and the thing that Peterson says, he was like, "Oh, well, why don't you ask Pompo?" And then Gene doesn't say anything. He goes, "Oh, I get it. Pompo's the screenwriter, and you can't ask her how you think it should go if you're only gonna follow what she says." And that makes a fair point because Gene usually only follows what Pompo says. And at this point, Pompo's like, "Yo, like, from what I have gathered, is that the reason why Pompo's doing this, Pompo's like, yo, I want to see your movie, not how other people want you to do this movie. I want to see how Gene Feeney makes his movie to captivate an audience, you know, to get them excited about this film." And the thing that Peterson says is, "You like movies, don't you?" And Gene's like, "Yeah." And there's a moment where he's like, "Yeah, of course I like movies." And he's like, "And what do you like about those movies?" And Peterson says, "I'm guessing the reason why you like those movies is because you found yourself in them. You kind of empathize with the characters. You laugh with some of them. You cry with some of them. Sometimes you get angry. Yeah, we've all been there when it came to Endgame." And and the thing he says is that you need to find yourself in your movie. And that's the thing, is that even now I'm speaking outside of the review for Pompo, but that's the thing, right? Is you have to find yourself in whatever you're doing. So, like, if you're an artist, sometimes you have to find yourself within the piece of art that you're making. Whether, I guess, if you're a game designer, yeah, technically, yeah, if you're a game designer, you can still find yourself within some parts of the game that, like if it's like in character archetype within the game, I guess, within your game, I guess that kind of works. Whether you're a writer like me, you find yourself within the different stories that you tell. You put pieces of you down on paper to invoke a feeling of happiness, of anger, of regret. You do this to then not only appeal to you, but to appeal to someone else. But the first person you have to gain attachment to and for while working on this is yourself. Because if you don't, how do I put this? If you don't have that attachment for what you're working on, and you aren't like, there could be a funny joke that you have written in your manuscript, right? And if that joke doesn't make you laugh, it's not going to make your reader laugh. If if you have a funny scene in your movie, if it's not funny to you, it's not going to be funny to your audience, right? And it's just those things like kind of hit different when you literally are looking at it from a different angle. So I guess my advice to y'all is if you haven't checked out Pompo the Cinephile, go check out Pompo the Cinephile. It's really interesting and really funny. Um, but yeah, find yourself in your work and continue pushing forward with whatever it is you are working on in the process until you hit your end goal of finishing said project. All right, take care. Thank you for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed your visit to the Underground Geek Shack. I know this one was a little bit shorter, but I thank you. See you guys.